Hello, one and all. Welcome to the show. New year, same BS. That's the saying I'm now using as we enter into 2026. It's a new time of the calendar, new year, new beginnings, but it's the same garbage being produced, ladies and gentlemen. The exact same garbage, the exact same fables, the exact same lies, the exact same psyops that we see over and over and over again that people have obviously pointed it out, including myself, because it's fairly easy to point all this stuff out, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to put two and two together. It's just the same garbage. The same garbage that's being spewed down our throats, and they expect us to just sink it in and believe it. And with this incoming year, there has been an announcement from none other than Chrystia Freeland, Cruella de Vil, who we haven't spoken about in quite some time. She was kind of off the radar for a bit after she resigned to not give the economic address during the Trudeau years. Then she got brought on to be the transportation secretary for Mark Carney. And now her prophecy has finally been fulfilled, ladies and gentlemen. She is announcing, this is from her Twitter page, saying Ukraine is at the forefront of today's global fight for democracy. Again, New Year, same BS. The global fight for democracy that's been going on for what, 5 years now, 4 years now? Let's see, 2022. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. You know, I'm not gonna stitch the numbers there. The global fight for democracy. And I welcome to this chance to contribute on an unpaid basis as an economic advisor to President Zelenskyy. Oh, man. Because it worked so well when she was the deputy prime minister and the financial advisor for Justin Trudeau. You know, how she froze bank accounts, how she mismanaged the funds, how she increased the debt, doubling and tripling the amount of the debt and the collapsing of the economy. Now it's Ukraine's turn to deal with that trouble. But the silver lining, it's an unpaid basis. It's an internship. Because I'm sure Zelenskyy is hard up for bucks to pay her, you know, all the money they siphoned all these years. I'm sure that's the problem there. I can't pay Chrystia Freeland. I can't. I use that for penthouse money and crack and stuff. In accepting this voluntary position, I'll be stepping aside from my role as the Prime Minister's special representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine. In the coming weeks, I will also leave my seat in Parliament. I want to thank my constituents for the years of confidence in me. Years of confidence. Boy, I don't know where they saw that. Because all the years that she has been in Parliament, I saw nothing. We have commented how awful and disparaging, disgusting, and deplorable a person like her is. Like, she has no charismatic abilities. She has no talent. She has no qualifications. We saw the notes that she was giving to the bankers to shut down the bank accounts. And you really wonder how she got into this position in the first place. It certainly wasn't the smarts. It certainly wasn't, the moxie that she had to become the deputy prime minister. There was definitely something behind the screens that promoted her up, that basically selected her in that position. I am so grateful to be your representative. So that's the announcement that she gave. And it really comes as no shock to people. And we're going to show you why it's not really a shock. Because this is something that for years, even before this Ukraine war even started, this is something that she's always dreamt about. This is something that her family is obviously connected to. She has deep ties with the Ukrainian, neo-Nazi alliances that are over there. So, hey, the silver lining is she's finally fitting in with her own clan. I mean, kind. Sorry. Misspoke there. Kind of. Here's Volodymyr Zelenskyy announcing this, saying, "Today I appointed Chrystia Freeland as an advisor on economic development. Chrystia is highly skilled in these matters." I'm sorry, I can't do a good Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I'm working on it, but Yeah, Chrystia is a highly skilled. That's why Canada is in the shape that's it, because she's highly skilled. When she goes on stage, when she's in the House of Commons, she lies about how, she's working on the behest of Canadians. Oh, I went to a school and I gave one child an apple and a banana and a juice box. I'm freeing the people of Canada. We're doing everything we can to save the people. That's why we're freezing their bank accounts. That's why we're putting hate speech laws against them. That's why we're criminalizing farmers for being farmers, because they have to go and toe the line for the globalists. Highly skilled. Wow. Even the workplaces she was at before don't think she's highly skilled. She started off as a journalist for, I think it was Reuters, and the people that worked with her at Reuters said she was incompetent. So, it again makes you wonder how exactly she became the deputy prime minister, how she was able to get this position. Because it sure wasn't experience. Sure as hell wasn't smarts. Sure as hell wasn't the qualifications that one might need. Has extensive experience in attracting investment and implementing economic transformations. Right now, Ukraine needs to strengthen its internal resilience, both for the sake of Ukraine's recovery, if diplomacy delivers such results as swiftly as possible, and to reinforce our defensive because of delays by our partners. It takes longer to bring this war to an end. I am grateful to anyone who is ready to support our state and engagement with partners. Glory to Ukraine. The thing that baffles me the most, it doesn't surprise me that Chrystia Freeland is jumping ship. She's taking the money and run, in the words of Steve Miller Band. It doesn't surprise me it's Chrystia Freeland. What does surprise me, though, is that, right now, we're seeing a lot of people talking about Venezuela, which we're going to get to another segment. That's a long story with that. A lot of people talking about Venezuela, a lot of people talking about Maduro. They're saying how much of a criminal and how much of a dictator, how much of a socialist he is, and that's why he's got to be held to U.S. contempt of laws. Even though U.S. law is only in the United States, it's not international law. That's why there's a difference between a country's law and international law basis. But all these people that are cheering on Nicolas Maduro being locked up in contempt and being criminally prosecuted for alleged crimes, when we know that these criminals are running amok. I don't see anyone, going to the reins and saying that Chrystia Freeland should be locked away, that Mark Carney should be locked in contempt, Justin Trudeau, all the scandals and all the criminal acts that he has done. Nobody's demanding him to be arrested, and it should be easier now because he's no longer prime minister. He's just now Katy Perry's boy toy. Nobody's asking for that. Nobody's asking for Keir Starmer to be locked up as he's bringing on digital IDs and decimating against the UK population. Nobody's arresting people in the United States and all the psychotic criminals that are running amok in the White House. Nobody's going after them. But of course, Nicolas Maduro is the criminal. Nicolas Maduro is the criminal. Just like how they told you for years that Vladimir Putin's the criminal. Vladimir Putin, the evil Russian dictator. Meanwhile, these schmucks run around and hop country to country, imploding it. This shouldn't be allowed. This should not be allowed. You're a Canadian. You worked in the Canadian Parliament. You almost destroy the country. And then you go off running to another country to destroy it? That should not be allowed. That should not be allowed. Just like how Mark Carney almost wrecked the Bank of England when he was the governor of the Bank of England, and then decided, hey, I'll come to Canada and fix their problems. The problems that we have created. So this is how I know that all this is a scam. This is a giant scam. They took the money, and now they're running. And now because Chrystia Freeland got this position with Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Ukraine, she's not going to be held in contempt by her constituents. This is it's so awful. It's so awful. But of course, again, no one's going to criminalize her. So here's CP24 mentioning this, saying Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy appointed former Federal Minister Chrystia Freeland as an advisor on economic development on Monday. Freeland has long expressed her support for Ukraine during its war with Russia and has said the country could be an economic juggernaut by taking up the opportunities it missed after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So she kind of just revealed the game in that statement. Because while you get the idiots online still thinking that this is about, going after Russia because they invaded in 2022, missing the entire point of this war has been going on since the end of the Cold War. They have wanted to attack Ukraine. They wanted to go after Russia since the 90s. And in 2014, they did a coup to overthrow the democratically elected president in Ukraine to install Volodymyr Zelenskyy, to install a comedian who plays the piano with his dick to become the leader of Ukraine. Not because of how competent he is, not because he's an effective leader, but because they know how much of a stooge he can be. He's easily manipulative, and that's why this is happening. Ukraine's not defending anybody. Ukraine is being used as a pawn. And it's all because of this. They don't give a damn about Ukrainians. They don't give a damn about us. They never gave a damn about Ukraine. Just like all the wars since Vietnam, you've been lied to. They never care about anyone except themselves and the financial opportunities it brings. Because they wouldn't do war if there wasn't a business incentive for it. Just like how they told you that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and we were going to go over there and save and liberate the people from evil dictators. What did? We took the oil. We took over the opium. We took over the minerals. We're still over there taking their resources. And those countries that were supposed to be liberated from us are even worse. They now become hellholes where terrorists are running amok. The same terrorists that we funded for how many years? So that's how you know all this is a giant scam. And it's amazing that people still do not get it. Still don't get it. In a post on social media Monday, Zelenskyy said Ukraine needs to strengthen what he calls internal resilience. Chrystia is highly skilled in these matters, and she has extensive expertise in attracting investment and implementing economic transformations, he said. Yeah, you like freezing bank accounts of your citizens, like writing awful letters to people, like attacking Canadians and saying that they are disgusting. They're a fringe minority with unacceptable views. Is that the experience he's mentioning? That's what he's talking about? Because that's the experience I could say about Chrystia Freeland. That's the most that she's done in Parliament. Because sure as hell not helping people. Sure as hell not representing people. The Canadian press has reached out to Freeland's office, the Prime Minister's office, and the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner for comment, but none have yet responded. Is that interesting? So, Freeland's office didn't comment. Mark Carney didn't comment. Not even the Conflict of Interest. You would think they'd be on top of this. You'd think they'd be on top of this. A Canadian parliamentarian who's been in office, who was the Deputy Prime Minister under Justin Trudeau, and done heinous attacks against her own constituents, is running to another country to become their advisor. You don't think that's a conflict of interest? You don't think that is a cause for a criminal investigation? Wow. A source who is close to Freeland but is not working for her in an official capacity, confirmed on her behalf that Zelenskyy offered her this unpaid role on December 22nd while she was in Kiev, and that Freeland told Prime Minister Mark Carney about the offer on December 24th. The source said Freeland has been in touch with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner about the job and described these conversations as positive. So that should just tell you, again, none of these people are on your side. None of these people give a damn about anything. They are unprincipled. They're unethical. They're just a mob. They're a criminal mob. Your world is run by ruthless criminals. And even the people that are supposed to be investigating stuff like this is unethical, what she is doing. More so than what she's done to the people of Canada. And they're going along with this. I'm sure their masters got told. They got told by their masters to go along with this. Just like all the people that were told to go along with pledging support for Ukraine. Even though these are supposed to be people that are against war. That we're not like America. We're not supposed to be bombing and causing catastrophe. We're supposed to be peacekeepers. I remember, Jean Chrétien, the former prime minister, said we were not going to go into the Iraq invasion. What happened to that? What happened to that? You got told. You got duped. These people are monsters. The people in Parliament are monsters. Freeland, who has Ukrainian ancestry, was a cabinet minister and a deputy prime minister in Justin Trudeau's government and was named transportation minister by Carney when he was sworn in last year. On September 16th, Freeland announced she would be leaving cabinet, and later the same day, Carney named her as a parliamentary secretary with the newly created title of Canada's Special Representative for the Reconstruction of Ukraine. She also still represents the federal riding of University Rosedale in Toronto as a member of parliament. Again, how is this not a conflict of interest? You're running as the representative of a riding in Toronto, and yet you are selected to represent a foreign country on the other side of the world. Think of how insane that is. Think. Imagine if this was a Russian. Imagine if this is someone working for China. Imagine if this is someone working for Palestine. Let's imagine that. Imagine if someone was working to rebuild Gaza. How much controversy it'd be. People be up in arms. There'd be news cycles going constantly about how unethical this is. But they're okay with this. They're okay with this. Yeah, I'm working especially to rebuild a foreign country that we illegally invaded, overthrew, caused a war, caused it to implode, and then we're going to reconstruct it. Just like how they said they were going to rebuild Afghanistan or Libya or Syria or Yemen or Iraq or Iran or Vietnam or any of the other countries that we invaded, destroyed, toppled, and made more false promises. Because it's not about anything except them. These are insidious, psychotic, immoral, unethical criminals. And that's why I just laugh at this idea that Maduro is like this evil boogeyman. Everyone's cheerleading that he's in captivity. But not this. Not her. Her appointment comes as Carney meets in Paris and with other allies of Ukraine in a bid to end Russia's war on the country. Canada has contributed more than $23.5 billion to Ukraine in military, economic, humanitarian support since Russia launched its full-scale invasion in 2022. Imagine that $23.5 billion. Imagine if they did a reconstruction of, say, Toronto. There's a lot of worn out buildings. The infrastructure needs an upgrade. Transportation definitely needs an upgrade. Imagine if they took a portion of that put towards that. And maybe Chrystia Freeland would actually get respect from Canadians. And maybe Canadians wouldn't have a really, really decreasing low of support for our parliament government. Because that's what's happening. Because people are sick of this. People are sick of this. They can see it with their own eyes. And yet they're being told to shove it down, swallow it. And if you say anything about this, then obviously you're working for the Kremlin. You're a Russian puppet. You're doing the bidding for Vladimir Putin. That they've been saying for the last how many years? And this has been going on since the 90s. Just to let you know. So this guy, L. Britton, puts it perfectly. It says, keeping it in the family. Freeland's roots are in Ukraine. Billions of unaccounted Canadian tax dollars sent to Ukraine. Mark Carney is godfather to Freeland's son. Freeland couldn't account for billions as finance minister, but found every dime that supported truckers. She is a criminal. He is a criminal. So I would love to know when anyone on social media is going to say that we need to crack her down, that she should be held to contempt. But no, let's focus on Venezuela and Maduro, because I've heard, all these fictitious stories about socialism, Venezuela, Cuba. So just to remind people, and this is why I said it's not a surprise really for me, because this is a long time coming. Just like how Miriam Adelson and the Zionist clan, they had their Israeli project, which is their prophecy. This has always been Chrystia Freeland's prophecy. This is why Canada has had a long-fledged support for this war, even though it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It doesn't involve Canada. It has nothing to do with our economy. Our economy suffered more as we contributed more to this war, and it's just caused devastation ever since. But for someone like her, because of this, Chrystia Freeland's granddad was indeed a Nazi collaborator. So much for Russian disinformation. That was reported in 2017. 2017. There was also articles around that time and videos. I wish I had the City News thing up. You can go look for yourself. There was reports about how corrupted Ukraine is. They knew it was a corrupt nation. They knew that there was neo-Nazis there. They knew that there's white supremacists, militias taking over the country. And yet, they allowed the war to go. They allowed for the attacks to happen. They allowed for Ukraine to decimate itself, all for a quick buck, and for someone like her to fulfill this prophecy of taking over the region and hijacking the resources. Boy, where have I heard this before? This is why I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this garbage. The new year, but it's the same BS. Same garbage. And you also recall that Chrystia Freeland was behind all the stuff that was going on with the Freedom Convoy. She wrote notes to the bankers, not well. You can see her handwriting. It's just atrocious. She wrote the notes to the bankers to freeze the bank accounts of the truckers. She demanded the imprisonment of people like Tamara Leach here, who was on the Blender News. And Tamara Leach is going to explain how Chrystia Freeland, being the deputy prime minister, being the financial advisor and the financial minister for this country, decimated against Canadians. And while she was stealing from Canadians to support an illegal war, a proxy war, on the other side of the world. She is a criminal, and they tried to arrest Tamara Leach for 10 years. But luckily, she's on house arrest, so it's good that she's not in federal prison, but it's still awful what they did to her. And so listen to what she says.
The CEOs of the 5 major banks instructing Chrystia Freeland, former deputy minister and former finance minister, on how they could freeze our bank accounts and seize our assets and keep their hands clean. Just label them as terrorists and seize their assets, just like it was, pass the butter.
That's how they did it. That's all you have to do. Just label someone as a terrorist, and you take control of their finances. You could take control of you could take control over their lives. You decimate them as less than a human being. That's all you have to do. Just label someone as a terrorist. Just like how in America, that's how they're able to do it. All they have to do is label someone as a terrorist, and they get their civil rights taken away. They don't have the First Amendment. They don't have any amendments. Nothing's backing them. They don't get recognized as a citizen, and they can do whatever they want to them. So, for all the people that are saying that, oh, we can't be like America, elbows up, it's amazing how Canada acts like America frequently with stuff like this. Because this is what America would do. This is what the United States would do to its own people, and we're doing it to our own people. Imagine that. But we're supposed to hate each other. Here's more.
Wow. We're talking about the freezing of bank accounts that happens in banana republics with no parliamentary oversight and no court order from a judge. The bank accounts of over 208 innocent Canadians were frozen. I ran into a lady here at one of the restaurants last year. She was a single mom of 3 boys. She donated $10 to the convoy and had her bank account froze.
So a single mother donated $10. So she wasn't even partaking in the convoy. Just think of that. Remind people. They froze the bank accounts of people that weren't even engaged in the convoy. They just donated to the cause. They went on to GoFundMe, gave a small donation to the truckers, and they got their bank accounts frozen, and GoFundMe suspended the campaign. Again, how is Chrystia Freeland allowed to still be in power? How is there no arrest warrants for a criminal like her? How is there no criminal warrants against Trudeau? How is there no criminal warrants against Mark Carney? How is there no criminal warrants against a lot of these people? It's because you're ruled by psychotic criminals. And that's why they're happy and gleeful to take someone down like Maduro than they would taking away someone like this. Because if you work for the globalist dictatorship, if you work for the one world government, if you work to enslave the population, then you're one of the good ones, according to them. They praise you. They say how wonderful you are. That's why Volodymyr Zelensky's like, oh, I'm so happy you're coming aboard. Maybe I could take you to a romantic getaway in my penthouse in New Jersey that I just bought with taxpayer money. So, again, this is Chrystia Freeland for you. This is Chrystia Freeland for you. This is only just a tiny portion of how malice this woman is. Here's Melissa reminding us. This is back before she became a member of the Canadian Parliament. This is Chrystia Freeland interviewing George Soros. He interviewed George Soros and co-authored a biography about him. And Chrystia Freeland considers George Soros a deeply personal friend of hers. This is the monster that we've had for almost a decade in Parliament that's now taking the money that she money laundered for this Ukraine war and using it for her own riches. So Melissa says Chrystia Freeland met George Soros in 1990, the same year he set up his foundation in Ukraine. So that really started this whole thing. The moment the moment that the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union displaced, that was when George Soros, NATO, and all these heinous world organizations and people like Chrystia Freeland got in bed with each other to calculate and start enacting a potential war to strike Russia. Because the whole purpose of this, the whole intent of this, was trying to dismantle Russia. That's been their whole goal. They want to dismantle Russia, they want to take their resources, and they want to balkanize it, meaning they want to separate the giant country of Russia and turn it into little separate vassal nations. They want to seize control. That's who Freeland is. That's who these heinous monsters are. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure Nicolas Maduro has ever tried to enact a war like this. I don't recall any of these other leaders I'm supposed to believe are heinous and evil and vile did any of this behind the scenes. But we know about stuff like this. We know the criminal acts that these people have done. So here's Chrystia Freeland back in the day interviewing George Soros. And look at this, George Soros, the future of Europe. So this is him trying to destabilize European nations, which is happening right now, and reshape them into this dystopian, technological, feudalist state that slowly is going to take over everybody. Not just Europe, not just us, but the entire world. And Chrystia Freeland is going to smile and go along with it because she knows that she kisses his ass frequently, and the World Economic Forum, she's going to be placed in a position of power like, I don't know, being the deputy prime minister to Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau, who was raised by the World Economic Forum to be a young global leader. So, here,
I first met you in Ukraine in 1990 when you began those efforts. There were many years, I think, when it seemed it was all useless. Does it say something to you, teach you something about open society, civil society building?
Well, yes, because basically, in many ways, I set up the foundation in Ukraine in 1990.
I first met you in Ukraine in 1990.
So this really started in 1990. And anyone that takes a glance, this is the thing. A lot of people don't like to do research. A lot of people were told not to do their own research. But if you just take a glance at Ukraine and Russia, you take a glance to understand the history and why this is happening, it makes it perfectly clear. It makes it perfectly clear why Russia came in on February in 2022. It makes it perfectly clear why this is happening. And it's because of grueling monsters like these two. To paraphrase George Carlin's, a big giant club. You and I ain't in it. You and I with actual souls and actually give a crap about things and actually have principles and ideals and morals. We're not in this club for that reason. So they'll take her. They'll take her and transfer her around country to country without any hesitation. Here is Wiretap Media. This is back in 2015. It says, report on August 11, 2015, Chrystia Freeland discusses replacing Ukraine's judiciary and government with foreign globalist actors. Today, Freeland's dreams have become a reality. So much for Ukraine's independence. So again, anyone that's still thinking that this is about fighting the independence for Ukraine, about democracy, about humanitarianism, about stopping Russia from taking over Europe, you are full of shit. You are full of garbage. And you are dumber than Cork. I would say less than Cork, because Cork actually has purpose. You're a useful idiot to villainous monsters like her, who never gave a crap about Canada, who never gave a crap about this country, only served to be the deputy prime minister, to hijack the resources and finances, and able to enact this dream of hers. Yeah, it's just like Zionism, just like Miriam Adelson. The only reason she's in America is because she could steal the resources from America to implement her prophecy. Go figure, it's the same exact playbook. So here's Chrystia Freeland. This is back in 2015. saying this.
I think something that as a Homa that we have to get over is maybe Ukraine fatigue. I genuinely believe that Ukraine now has turned a new page. And I really think that this is the moment when Ukraine is really turning onto the right path. I don't think we should be naive about it.
I really think Ukraine is turning onto the right path. You know, like corrupted, full of neo-Nazis. That Canadian soldiers, when they were stationed over there, reported back to Parliament saying, hey, there's a bunch of neo-Nazis here. I don't know if you know that. There's white supremacists here that are not shy to brag about it. I don't know if you know that. And of course, the Canadian Parliament turned a blind eye, walked away. They did not care. They didn't even care about the Canadian soldiers there. I bet they didn't even know that there were soldiers stationed in Ukraine. A lot of people didn't know that. But that was said on City News in 2019. So, again, anyone that still thinks that this happened on February of 2022, you are dumb. You are dumb on purpose. And you are being sucked into this garbage to be a useful stooge, a useful idiot. The schmucks like her that never gave a damn about you in the first place. And if you still cheer this on, congratulations. It really shows what low IQ you have. And all it takes is for someone to just do some basic research. Go back and watch Ukraine on Fire. Go look at John Mearsheimer. Go look at the people that warned you about this. It doesn't take rocket science to figure this out. It just takes brains. It takes courage. It takes not listening to garbage like this and being sucked in like a bunch of rodents.
It's not, it's far from perfect. Yvonne talked about the reforms. And, of course, those reforms are incomplete. Of course, there is still corruption in Ukraine. And, of course, there is increasingly popular dissatisfaction.
Even then, 2015, yeah, there's corruption in Ukraine. Even in 2015, they acknowledged it. There's corruption in Ukraine. So you know what the best way to resolve that? Use them in a proxy to go against Russia, and then we send all of our money over there. That's a great idea. Give all the monies to the people that are the most corrupt in Eastern Europe. Wow. From the brilliant minds that told you to give the car keys right to the carjackers. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And these are not hard to find. So, anyone that still tells you that Ukraine is still important and we got to send all those billions of dollars, oh, we're doing the right thing, we're saving those people, again, show them all this. Show them all this. Show them this entire video. And what garbage they are spewing. You want to talk about disinformation? You want to talk about propaganda, being a useful idiot? You promoting this war is nothing but you being a useful idiot. And it's not just Freeland that's taking the opportunity for this. Now is the time for Canadian businesses to invest in Ukraine. The federal government can act on a number of fronts to help kickstart Canadian companies' investments in Ukraine. It's like Julian Assange tells us, the whole point of these wars are bankers' wars, and they're continuous. They don't want the war to end. They want to keep it going for the sake of the finances they can get from it, from the business opportunities for NATO, and to keep Volodymyr Zelenskyy from, being held captive in his own country and being held in criminal court for all the crimes that he's committed. That's why Volodymyr Zelenskyy is an excellent warlord. He's an excellent warlord because he keeps the war going to hide people, to shield people from all the crimes that he's committed. Just like Bibi Netanyahu. He's never going to stop this war. He's going to keep it as long as possible so that people won't investigate and he won't be held contempt for all the crimes that he has committed. That's why these people do this. Here's Moose on the Loose. also telling us, I've shown this before, I just want to show it again. Mark Carney is heavily invested in the rebuild of Ukraine. How this is not a rampant conflict of interest. So I've showed this people before. This was a list of all the companies involved in the rebuildment of Ukraine. And you can see all the green spots there are the ones that Mark Carney's invested in. So this is why. This is why Ukraine is on the top priority of these politicians, away from, I don't know, the country they're actually supposed to be running. They would rather stab Canadians in the back even further to keep this afloat. Why? Because of this. And if we really wanted to stop this war, we got to call out this BS. We got to call out the dirty money laundering, the investments, and cut off the funds. That's how you stop a war. That's how you bring peace to the table. You cut off the funds that allow for these people, these maniacs, to keep killing each other. Because once the money runs out, once there's no opportunity and investment in a war, that's when people decide, hey, maybe we should actually come together because it's not beneficial for anyone. And this is the CBC, of course, because why else would we go into a foreign country if there wasn't some sort of natural resource that we can get from this? Ukraine's mineral riches could bankroll its post-war future. But what does Trump's deal really mean? The country has a vast mineral wealth, but war with Russia weighs on extracting it. This is, again, the same garbage. The same goddamn garbage. They fooled you with Iraq. They fooled you with Afghanistan. They fooled you with Libya. They fooled you with Syria. They fooled you with Yemen. It's the exact same playbook. And now, on top of still funding Ukraine for this and promoting the genocide in Gaza, now we're starting to do warfare with Venezuela. And you still see the same goddamn people promoting it like this is new. Like oh, I've never seen this done before. And when I saw the bombs being deployed into Venezuela, I almost had a deja vu moment because it's almost exactly similar to what we saw in the early 2000s when it was wall-to-wall war porn invading Iraq. And look how well that turned out. Look how well Vietnam turned out. In fact, has there ever been a war that we have promoted, that we've ever won since World War II? Has there ever been a war that we actually won that actually made it beneficial for everybody? No. Because Smedley Butler and many other people will tell you that war is hell, and exactly it. It's causing hell for the impoverished and the population, and all it does is enrich these monsters. So why isn't Chrystia Freeland behind bars? Why is it that she's allowed to do the utmost destruction for our own nation, not be held in contempt, not be held in criminal court, not be prosecuted under her own jurisdiction, and allowed to flee to another country? I don't know. Maybe the same way that Mark Carney almost destroyed England and is allowed to become prime minister here. If that doesn't tell you we live in a globalist hellscape, that countries don't matter to these people, I don't know what will. You still believe that, oh, we have sovereignty and whatnot. Clearly we don't. Because how is this allowed? How is this allowed? They can destroy one country and go to the next country and just become an advisor. If I get a job in another country, I have to go through immense amounts of legal hurdles and visas and qualifications. You have to go through processing. But Chrystia Freeland, just going to jump ship. Unbelievable. But it was going to happen.